Morning guys, good morning. I hope everyone is well and welcome to the first bonus session of the week. It feels weird saying good morning rather than good evening. Obviously this is the first session we've done in the morning. All the sessions so far have been in the evening, 7:30. But this first bonus session is the only one we'll run actually, which is in the morning. All of next week's bonus sessions are also at 7:30. Okay, so you'll get you'll be getting some emails next week. So we've got a next bonus session on Tuesday evening, and then our final bonus session and official closing ceremony next Thursday when this week shuts down. Okay, so we've got two more fundamentally important sessions. We've also got lots of extra resources to share. We've got some recipe bundles going out tomorrow and lots of other things. So we've got lots going on. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone's having a good day. So today I wanted to just do this impromptu bonus session because we didn't get time to talk about it on Wednesday. And it's about all things. It's about kind of providing an introduction, an overview of how Kaya Kalpa understands and contextualizes and uses nutritional medicine, okay, which is, the foundation, the bedrock of all health. Okay, in Western medicine, in nutritional medical research, in Kaya Kalpa, it doesn't matter what discipline you look at. Food is the foundation of our health, and that's for a simple reason, which is we have to eat. Okay, we don't have to meditate to stay alive. We don't have to take herbs to stay alive. We don't have to exercise every day to stay alive, but we do have to eat every day. Okay, most of us eat every day. Most of us eat 2 or 3 meals a day. So that food has an accumulative gain. Okay, and there's no gray area when it comes to food, when it comes to nutrition. There's no gray area. Food is either healing or it's harming. Okay, it's either age reversing or it's age promoting. It's either longevity supporting or it's disease supporting. Okay, there's very few gray areas. There's very few foods that fall within those lines. Okay, food is healing or harming, and that's pretty much it. And we have to remember here that this is an accumulative gain. If we're eating 2 or 3 meals every day, day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, imagine how profound that impact is if we're stacking that food up in a way that's health promoting, anti-aging, disease preventing. The accumulative gains are profound. If we're stacking up on foods that aren't fulfilling that, if they're, inflammatory, immune suppressing, age promoting, then we're going to accelerate aging. Okay, so it's absolutely important that we get this right. Okay, a big welcome to everyone who's here. Sheila, Rachel, Alice, Irene, Jeanette, Lucy, Juliet, Jonathan. I hope you guys are all well. Mandy, Joe. I hope everyone's having a good day. Also, you may have seen, I can see quite a few people here have already joined, but you may have seen that yesterday evening we opened up the doors to our 8-week Kaya Kalpa transformation plan. We've had such a phenomenal response. We've had dozens and dozens and dozens of people transfer across to that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then do check out last night's video or check out our website. So we've opened up the doors to our 8-week course, which is it's a course that condenses all of the fundamental components of Kaya Kalpa into one online course, one online platform that's about giving people the entire Kaya Kalpic blueprint, the entire Kaya Kalpic framework for, really transforming health, to really enhancing your energy and vitality and youthfulness. So I know lots of you here, I can see lots of your names who've already joined us. So I can't wait to continue the journey with you and continue our move into becoming young again. And I hope to see everyone else there soon as well. If you're looking to really continue the momentum of this week, then that platform is a great way of doing it. That course is a great way of doing it. Okay. So the Kaya Kalpic diets, okay. The Kaya Kalpic diets are, the dietary and nutritional interventions of Kaya Kalpa sit at the very heart of it. Okay, so what we're talking about today is a kind of a snapshot of the nutritional models from the 8-week Kalpic transformation plan. I've kind of cherry picked some of the most important stuff. But when we look at Kalpa, the foundation is what we eat. Okay, for that very reason that it has that accumulative gain, that accumulative impact. And when we think about food, it's just worth also briefly touching on the fact that it's not just food in terms of the impact it has, on our body, but also our mood. Okay, one of the things that Kaya Kalpa emphasizes in huge detail is this idea of, I've touched upon it on most sessions this week, haven't I? But this idea of kind of enthusiasm and speed. So much of the Kaya Kalpic practices come back to this idea of enthusiasm and speed. And our gut health, okay, when we're talking about nutrition, when we're talking about diet, we can't separate it from gut health, okay, because the health of our gut, our microbiome, is dependent upon what we eat. About between 80 and 85% of our feel-good hormones, our serotonin, our dopamine, is produced in the gut, okay? And it's those hormones that make us feel optimistic, positive, engaged, excited, happy, youthful in our mind, but also youthful in our body. But it's our gut that produces those hormones. And when Kaya Kalpa talks about this idea of living with enthusiasm, living with excitement, living with youthfulness, so much of that comes down to our hormone profile. And so much of that hormone profile comes down to our gut. And so much of our gut health comes down to what we eat. So when Kaya Kalpa is talking about nutrition, it's talking about it in the entire sense of ourselves. It's talking about our genetic health, our cell health, our organ health, our psychological health, our emotional health. Every part of what makes you, and me, is impacted upon either very, very positively or very, very negatively by what we eat. Okay, so this is absolutely integral to anti-aging, to longevity, to becoming young again. And when Kaya Kalpa looks at its nutritional framework, it keeps on funneling it back to those 3 primary objectives. Okay, remember we've spoken about it quite consistently over the last week. All of Kaya Kalpa, everything Kaya Kalpa aims to achieve, constantly funnels back to detoxification, reducing inflammation, and rejuvenation. Okay, that's the entire triangulation of Kaya Kalpa. And it's fundamental that it does that. The Western clinical evidence justifies that trilogy of targets, because we know that toxins from the environment that build up in our body, we know they accelerate aging. We know they increase the risk of diseases like Alzheimer's, cancers, heart diseases. We know they suck the life out of us. We know that if we're carrying a high level of toxins, we know it makes us feel tired and fatigued and sluggish. Okay, so detoxification is key. Okay, reducing inflammation, likewise. We know we have to sever that inflammatory response if we're to feel vital and youthful and energized and strong. And most importantly, we have to be effective in the rejuvenation of our body. Okay, we have to be rebuilding our body in a way that's going to engender youthfulness and health and disease resistance. Okay, and we've spoken about the mechanisms there in terms of things like stem cell production, reducing inflammation in our cells, increasing genetic, health and aging, lengthening our telomeres, all of the things we've covered. And diet is no different. When we've looked at herbal medicines, we've looked at herbal alchemy, we've looked at fasting, we've looked at calorie restriction. All of those things are there to target those 3 mechanisms. Okay, and it's no different with diet. The Kaya Kalpic longevity diet, the Kaya Kalpic, age reversing tonics and dietary applications are all there to target those 3 mechanisms. And what I love about the Kaya Kalpic dietary frameworks, okay, so for me personally, I've spent 15 plus years when I was working in cancer research at the hospital. A big part of my work was analyzing diets, interpreting the evidence for what diet is ultimately the best, what diet is easiest to use, what diet has the most evidence behind it in terms of keeping us fit, keeping us youthful, keeping us healthy. And the problem with so many diets is that they are micro focused. Okay, it requires measuring out 62.5 grams of fiber and making sure we're having 70 grams of protein and making sure we're having this much carbohydrate, and it's very restrictive, it's very difficult. And even the diets that are very good in terms of the evidence, the sustainability is awful. Okay, the sustainability is awful because people can't stick with them long term. And we know we've got, lots of very robust clinical evidence to support that. A brilliant diet, if it's not fun, if it's not enjoyable, if it's not easy, if it doesn't taste good, people aren't going to do it. And if they don't do it, you don't get the benefit from it. The thing that I love perhaps more than anything else about the Kalpic diet is, yes, it's evidence-based. Yes, it's potently health promoting, it's powerfully age reversing, but it's phenomenally easy and simple to adopt. Okay, and it's how I live. It's, when I'm constructing meals, when I'm cooking for my family, when I'm eating, this is the way that I eat. This is the way that I fuel my body. And it's all about ratios. Okay, Kalpic doesn't say this food is bad or this food is good or we should be eating this much of that and this much of this. It's about ratios. And Kalpic diet, the diet focuses on two classifications of food. Foods that are called building foods and foods that are called extracting foods. Okay, and the whole framework is we need to be eating a kind of specific ratio of these two classifications of foods. Okay, and ideally we want about 60% of our diet to be building foods and about 40% of our diet to be extracting foods. And I'm going to talk about what that is and why. So our building foods are they're the rejuvenating foods. Okay, so we spoke about those three mechanisms: detoxification, reducing inflammation, and rejuvenation. The building foods are the rejuvenating foods. They're the foods that strengthen us. They're foods that provide massive amounts of energy. They're foods that bolster immunity. They're foods that increase energy and vitality. They're foods that regenerate our cells and organs. They're foods that optimize our kind of outlook and mood. They're called anabolic foods. The building foods are called anabolic foods. So we think about athletes, taking anabolic steroids. What do? They kind of increase strength and stamina. It's the anabolic property. Anything that's anabolic is building, strengthening, rejuvenating. Okay, so the building foods are foods, that are some of the most health-giving, evidence-based foods in existence. So we're looking at things like, healthy fats, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, ghee. We're looking at whole grains. We're looking at root vegetables. We're looking at ripe, sweet, nutritious fruits. We're looking things like avocados. We're looking at things like nuts, seeds, dates. We're looking at, if you eat animal products, we're looking at things like organic eggs, organic cheese, grass-fed meat, wild-caught fish. If you are a meat eater, I've had quite a lot of questions around whether I eat meat. Okay, I'm predominantly vegetarian. I'm about 90% vegetarian and about 10%. I do have, a very low level of meat, but very high quality. I only have organic grass-fed meat, just because it does have that kind of, that building, strengthening quality. Okay. We're looking at things like cacao, we're looking at things like, the foods that are incredibly high in phytonutrients. Okay, these are, immensely powerful, immensely strengthening foods. And they have such a discernible, such a positive impact upon our body in terms of things like our muscle growth, our muscle repair, the energy production systems in our body. Okay, and the way I often think about it is that imagine, if someone had lost a lot of weight, if someone was emaciated, if someone was fatigued, exhausted, we wouldn't want to give them a cold, raw garden salad. We want to give them strengthening, stimulating, building foods that are going to regenerate them. And I've seen these foods work wonders. So I've worked a lot. Like I said, my background is in cancer, integrative cancer care and cancer research. And I've worked a lot with people who've come out of the back of, really debilitating chemotherapy treatments, and they've lost loads of weight. They've lost a huge amount of body fat. They're immunocompromised. And when we work with those people, what do? We focus on these building foods that regenerate, repair, that strengthen immunity. And what don't we want? We don't want pallor. We don't want weakness. We don't want fatigue. We don't want emaciation. We don't want tiredness. They're all things that are the opposite of what Kaya Kalpa advocates. Kaya Kalpa advocates this youthfulness, this vitality, this energy. And it's the building foods that provide that. Okay, so the building foods are one classification of food. So when we're looking at constructing our meals, we want about 60% of our meal to be made up of building foods. So a slight majority. So it's about 60% building foods. And also the other thing that these foods do very powerfully is the building foods increase the level of something called ATP. Okay, so ATP is called adenosine triphosphate, and it's the energy currency of the body. So ATP is what makes us feel energized and fit and strong. Okay, these building foods do that. So about 60% of our food, each meal, our daily intake wants to be building. The other 40% wants to be what we call extracting foods. Okay, and if the building foods target rejuvenation, the extracting foods target detoxification. And they're really, really fundamentally important. Because like I said, toxins is one of the messages that I'm so keen to propagate is how important it is we as individuals and families are more proactive around detoxification, because we are, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the cleaning products, just sitting on the seat in your car. The car seats have got fire retardants, which we know transfer into the blood through the skin. We can't avoid it. We can't avoid toxins, but what we can do is make sure that our toxin removal equals toxin accumulation. Because what do we know? The evidence is absolutely clear that toxic load accelerates aging. It increases cell degeneration, it increases cell mutation, it increases the risk of diseases like cancer and heart disease and Alzheimer's. It increases weight gain, it increases fatigue. We need to be stimulating increased detoxification. And the extracting foods do that. The extracting foods are the mobilizing, stimulating, detoxifying foods. And they are equally important. Okay, because the risk with the building foods that I've just spoken about, the risk is that if we have too much of them, they're very heavy. Okay, they're quite hard to digest because they are building. So we need to, if we're putting in these very strengthening, energizing building foods, we need to make sure that's compensated with foods that are digestive stimulants. Foods that increase metabolism, foods that increase digestive ability. Most importantly, foods that increase our ability to extract the nutrients from the food we eat, okay? Because a healthy diet is only healthy when we extract the nutrients. If we're eating loads of really good food, that healthy food only has the potential to be healthy. It's not until the nutrients in the food are extracted and enter into our cells. It's only once those nutritional compounds enter into our cells that diet becomes healthy. Up until that point, it's just the potential for health. How do we do that? By increasing our digestive capacity, our digestive strength, increasing our ability to extract nutrients and deliver them into our cells. What does that? The extracting foods. Okay, these are the foods that increase metabolic rate, increase digestive capacity, increase liver function, increase detoxification. And here we're talking about, primarily things like our pungent foods. So our garlics, our onions, our leeks, ginger, black pepper, those kinds of things. We're talking about bitter foods, particularly bitter foods, leafy green vegetables, courgettes, fennel seeds, turmeric, also to a degree astringent foods. Okay, so one of the reasons So in the 8-week Kalpic transformation plan, one of the bonuses is you get full access to a 10-module course on the 6 tastes of Ayurveda. So Ayurveda and Kalpa classify diets into 6 classifications: sweet foods, sour foods, salty foods, bitter foods, astringent foods, and pungent foods. And one of the reasons we're giving that full course as part of the bonus of the Kalpic transformation plan is that it allows you to understand these concepts, because the extracting foods are predominantly bitter and pungent. Okay, and so we want to be increasing those. 1, because they detoxify us, but 2, because they allow us to make full use of the building foods. And if we've got those things working together, then suddenly we enter that hallowed nutritional ground where we're putting in phenomenally rejuvenating, anti-aging, strengthening foods, and we're able to extract them properly, and we're able to deliver the nutrients into our cells whilst aiding detoxification. And for me personally, after kind of 15 years of research into nutritional medicine, I've never, in all sincerity, come across a nutritional model that's more effective than that. Okay, in terms of its mechanisms, in terms of the published evidence, but also in terms of how easy it is. Okay, think about how easy that is. When you're making a meal, making sure, if you imagine you divide your plate into a circle, making sure that the slight majority, about 60% of your meal, is the building foods. The other 40% are your extracting foods. It's as simple as that. Okay, and we even do it for our kids. If you're having, you're making something like, a quick breakfast, scrambled eggs, on toast with avocado. You've got your building foods there. They've got the eggs, they've got the avocado, they've got the whole grains. But quickly frying up, some kale or some spinach and some courgettes, that's a great, quick breakfast. Okay, so just looking at how you're constructing your meals and trying to modify it so it's predominantly 60% kind of building and 40% extracting, gives us the best of all worlds. And if we then correlate that to things like stem cell production, to telomere length, to reducing inflammation, for increasing energy, it's profound. The impact is profound. And then we can see why Kaya Kalpa really advocates specific tonic foods. And one of the things I love about Kaya Kalpic longevity nutrition and anti-aging nutrition is that it has the overarching framework, which is what we've just kind of touched on there. But within the overarching framework, it has specifics. It has longevity tonic foods, longevity tonic remedies and recipes. And one of the foods I just want to quickly focus on is something as simple as palm dates, particularly medjool dates. Okay, let me know, are you a big fan of medjool date? Anyone here love dates, palm dates, particularly medjool dates? Just nature's, just one of nature's most phenomenal foods, isn't it? Medjool dates, just 1 or 2 dates, gives you such a pick-me-up. And palm dates in Kaya Kalpa Kaya Kalpa has a selection of particular, so these dates are building foods. Okay, we spoke about, the building foods, the extracting foods. There are certain tonic foods that are particularly building. Okay, things like extra virgin coconut oil, ghee, walnuts, almonds, dates. Okay, these are Kaya Kalpa's longevity, energizing, youthfulness giving, anti-aging tonics. Okay, they're called rasanyanas. We've spoken about rasanyanas, haven't we? Rasanyanas, that which destroy aging and disease. So you get rasanyanic herbs, like we discussed on Tuesday, but you also get rasanyanic foods. And dates are one of the most important of those foods. And what Kaya Kalpa advocates is having 2 to 3, ideally organic, ideally medjool dates a day. Okay, that's it. And people will say, well, what about the sugar? What about the sugar content and the blood sugar levels? It doesn't play out in the research. okay, because dates have a very high level of fiber. So when you eat a date, yes, it's got sugar in it, but because that sugar is bound to the fiber, it doesn't create big sugar hits, big blood sugar hits, okay? It creates energy production. So Kaya Kalpa advocates, having 2 to 3 dates a day as a way of engendering youthful energy throughout the day. And if we then correlate that with the Western research, we see such compelling clinical evidence to support why. Okay, and I want to just briefly talk about that. So dates, I'm sure everyone here has heard of the concept of superfoods. It's everywhere, isn't it? Superfoods. But what actually is a superfood? A superfood is classified as a food that has within it, a food that contains within it nutritional compounds that are proven to suppress disease and promote health. And if we apply that criteria to dates, particularly medjool dates, not only do we see that it's a true superfood, but perhaps one of the most important superfoods of all. Okay, why? The first thing is that it has a very unique nutritional profile, particularly with regards to micro minerals. And this is key. So many people are not so much deficient, but suboptimal in micro minerals. Okay, because we can't get them from food. It's so hard to get them from food. I'm thinking about potassium, copper, magnesium, manganese, zinc. It's so hard to get these from, our diet unless we're using tonic foods. Okay, dates have very high levels of these micro minerals, particularly potassium, and that is the key. Okay, in terms of Kaya Kalpa, because potassium, so every cell in our body has something called the sodium potassium pump, which is a process that lets sodium out of our cells and potassium into our cells. And that's key because potassium, our cells need potassium to create electrical energy. Okay, so how's this for a statistic? As a human body, okay, if we look at the individual voltage of every cell and we extrapolate that across all 70 trillion cells in our body, statistically a human body has enough voltage over 24 hours to power a small village. Okay, our body produces a phenomenal volume of voltage, but it can't produce voltage without potassium. And energy production in our cells is what makes us feel vital. Okay, if you look at the clinical research, if you look at people suffering with fatigue, people who are prematurely aging, people who are diseased or lacking health and vitality, the electrical currency of their cells is a lot lower. What does that mean? Their body's producing less energy, so they feel flatter, they feel more tired, they feel more exhausted. If we up the level of potassium intake, more potassium enters the cells, our cells produce more electricity and our vitality goes up. And it's one of the biggest things between older people and younger people. If you look at why a 70, 80, 90, 100-year-old thinks slower, moves slower, recovers slower, acts slower, a big part of that is because their cells aren't producing enough electricity. If we can increase electrical charge, we increase speed, and potassium is the way to do that. But so statistically, about 75% of adults in the Western world are suboptimal in potassium because we're not eating enough high potassium foods. Dates contain a ridiculous level of potassium. Okay, so in Kaya Kalpa, it's called OJAS, OJAS, which means kind of strength, vigor, and immunity. So by having 2 to 3 dates a day, we up our potassium levels, we up our vitality levels. Okay, but the other thing that's really worth emphasizing in the context of reversing aging, becoming young again, is that dates have a very unique antioxidant profile. Okay, and within our body, we have something called ROS, okay, which stands for reactive oxygen species, okay, reactive oxygen species. And these are a particularly damaging, particularly sinister type of free radical, okay, which accelerates aging, it causes cell mutations, it causes DNA damage, it's associated with most diseases, cancers, heart disease, Alzheimer's. And as our levels of ROS increase, our risk of disease and our premature aging increases with it. We must be doing things every day that lower reactive oxygen species. It's one of the most important things we can do to slow down aging, reverse aging, maintain youthful. Dates have a particular antioxidant profile that is clinically proven to neutralize reactive oxygen species. So what that means is we have hopefully reactive oxygen species production is being neutralized by antioxidant intake. And if we can do that every day, then we can completely neutralize the pro-aging impacts of ROS, and we can actually reverse that mechanism. Okay, so dates, the antioxidant profile, the vitamin and mineral profile, the energizing, strengthening profile of dates are so unique. And that's just one kind of simple takeaway. Okay, if we just adding in, 2 to 3 ideally organic top quality dates, particularly mature dates, into our daily routine, we're adding in those building foods that have these profound health promoting, anti-aging, kind of disease preventing mechanisms. Okay, so as a practical takeaway, just 2 simple things we can do there. The first one is just buy a pack of brilliant mature dates and just have 2 a day. Okay, tomorrow you'll get an email which has got some fantastic Kalpic recipes for using more dates. Okay, the second thing we can do is look at this building foods versus extracting foods model. And when we're constructing meals, the best way of constructing optimally nutritious meals that help us stay young is to follow that criteria of 60% building, 40% extracting. Okay, and in the 8-week Kalpic transformation plan, the full plan, we've got meal plans and recipes and obviously lots of advice on how to do that. Okay, so like I said, I know lots of people here. I can see your names. I can see you've already joined us in the 8-week course. If you haven't joined us, doors are open now. Doors are open for just under a week until next Thursday. So if you're looking to continue your journey into becoming young again by accessing the complete 8-week framework, I'd love to see you there. Doors are open now. It's £129 for the whole course. There's a payment plan, £45 a month for 3 months if you're looking to spread the payment. So please do check it out. But other than that, have a lovely, lovely day. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Really, really appreciate it. And I'll be in touch with more information soon. But have a lovely rest of the day and take care. Cheers, guys.